are we are recording. This will be on our YouTube page, I believe. So if anyone wants to go through it again, it'll be there for you. Thank you for joining our 2024 Nocturne Community Groups information session. I believe this is the first time we've done a community groups information session. We do offer them for artists that apply for our main call, just to give people an idea of what to expect when applying and go through any questions. Yeah, so it's great to have such a good turnout. I think we'll try and keep things to about an hour with some questions at the end. So yeah, I think we'll keep questions to the end. Does that sound okay, Melanie?
Yeah, I think too, we're a small enough group, like it's manageable that if people do have pertinent questions, you know, shout them out as well. I think we're all here. Yeah.
No, that sounds good. There's the chat, or you can raise your hand and we'll try and get to you. Okay. So just before we start, just want to acknowledge that Nocturne takes place within Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We also acknowledge the significant foundations that the infrastructure and culture of Black and African Nova Scotian communities have played in building this province and country. We continue to work to collaborate, amplify, and connect with many art communities that live and work here in Mi'kma'ki. Perfect. Okay, this is kind of what we're going to go through today in the presentation. So we'll start with just an introduction about Nocturne if you're new to Nocturne. Yeah, we'll introduce our curator and theme. Our curator, Shivanjan, was not able to join the meeting today, but he sends his regards, and we will go through kind of the theme that he's created for the festival this year. And then eligibility, we have a special call this year for waterfront chalets that's in collaboration with Build Nova Scotia. We'll go over that. Artist compensation and care, and then we'll walk you through how to apply step by step, and then the selection process. Okay, so there are live closed captioning for this presentation. So if you're not sure how to set up closed captioning, you can click your little profile picture, settings, and then there's an accessibility tab. So you can check it to always show captions. I think that's the easiest way to do that. If you have any questions about that, just let us know. If you have questions, put them in the chat, or just raise your hand. And again, this will be recorded, so we will put it in the chat. We'll email everyone who's registered to have a copy of it. This is just our highlight reel from Nocturne 2023. It's just a couple minutes long, but even if you were at the festival, it's kind of a great recap of the festival last year. So we'll start off by just checking out the highlight reel. And are you able to hear it? Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so that was kind of a short recap of the 2023 festival. And we can move on. So as most of you probably know, Nocturne is a festival that takes place in the fall, in October each year, in Chibuktuk, Halifax. It's a completely free festival that showcases and celebrates visual arts in Mi'kma'ki, Nova Scotia. In 2024, Nocturne Microcosm will take place October 17th to 20th and is curated by Shivanjan Carmaker. At its core, the festival exhibits temporary artworks in downtown Halifax and Dartmouth. We aim to present critical and relevant art events of a high artistic and professional standard. We encourage proposals of all kinds: installations, performance, community engagement, visual, radio, video, and more, as long as it resonates with Nocturne's theme and values in some way. So these are also from last year, some great projects here. This is our small but mighty team. So Melanie, who's with us today, is our executive director. I don't know if you want to give a brief little introduction, Melanie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. As Signe said, my name is Melanie Nugent-Noble. My pronouns are she and her. And I think this is my fourth Nocturne. My first was as an artist, and this is my third as executive director.
Awesome. Yeah, Shivanjan is our curator this year. So every year sorry, that's my cat. The window's open and she sees her rival cat next door. Shivanjan is our curator this year. He was also an artist for Nocturne 2023. So yeah, every year we have a different curator who chooses a theme to kind of bring everything together for the festival. My name is Signe. My pronouns are she, her. And I started with Nocturne around a year ago, in May last year. So this will be like my second festival, third festival I attended it the year before, and I moved here from Calgary in 2022. Yeah, so Shivanjan's slide here just kind of gives an introduction about him and the theme. So the theme this year, Microcosm, was chosen as a platform for artists to consider and share stories to create connections around shared love, experiences, tragedies, and or responsibilities. This theme is intentionally broad, so it allows kind of a flexibility to tell a personal story from a first-person perspective or from a greater community. Yeah, and kind of this comparing and contrasting of microcosm, macrocosm relationship. Ultimately, Shivanjan hopes that this theme results in a tapestry of local stories that speak to the times that we're in now. Yeah. And we have a little quote here from Shivanjan, just kind of about why he was inspired to choose this theme. Okay. Yeah, so we do have various different types of projects that are in different categories. What we're focusing on today, obviously, is community groups and galleries. And so these are, unlike some of our other projects, these are self-funded. Sorry, I'm gonna just close my window. Sorry, there's just some kids out there and my cat. Self-funded projects that kind of any community group can submit to be part of the Nocturne Festival. So your venue gets put on the map. And yeah, it's a really great way to get local organizations involved. Community groups and galleries can submit one project each. Oops. Yeah, so we just have a couple little examples here of some projects from last year. So we do encourage community collaboration, for example, between local businesses and artists. So Nocturne celebrates and encourages community groups and galleries to work collaboratively. We also encourage fair financial compensation to artists involved with creating or collaborating on a project for community groups and galleries. And we will also talk more about that later on in the presentation. This was a project from 2023. If anyone's familiar with Inkwell, it's a beautiful gift shop and stationery store on South Park Street. So every year they participate and do some sort of printmaking workshop. And this year they collaborated with 2 local artists. Yeah, and so we got these, actually I have one right here, these little takeaway postcards. This is another example of a local business getting involved in Nocturne. So the Train Yard General Store in Dartmouth. Their mascot is this little goose, so they got folks to make their own little lantern, which was a really fun project. And again, they collaborated with a local artist. Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of a, I don't know what you would call it, not a tagline, but something that we've been working with is this idea of changing the way you see art, changing the way you see your city, and that's kind of a really great way to summarize Nocturne. It's a chance to experience your city in unexpected ways. So performances, installations alter the urban environment, making it surprising. Whether or not you're a patron of the arts, the visceral experience of being up close to an artist's vision will change the way you think about art. So Nocturne is really about kind of making everyday spaces kind of transformed through the arts. Nocturne's values, we encourage proposals that reflect our core values as an independent, non-commercial and free contemporary art festival. So we have a very artist-centered approach. We value equity, diversity, and inclusion, and empowerment through the arts. So being a part of a creative community, this is a really, this is one of the main reasons why a lot of community groups participate. Community groups are an integral and invaluable part of Nocturne. When you participate, you become a part of a community of creatives dedicated to providing opportunities for local artists. And it's a way for community groups to showcase their work, collaborate with others, and inspire. Supporting artists of varying disciplines and career stages, so emerging artists all the way up to more established artists or beginner artists. Creating and nurturing connections across various sectors. So, not just arts organizations can apply. We've had a lot of very diverse organizations and nonprofits and local businesses get involved. Yeah, and so you may be wondering what community groups, I guess, encompass. So we've kind of split it into 4 main categories that usually participate in the community groups and galleries call. So it's called community groups and galleries, but it also includes museums and often local businesses. So yeah, if you're a for-profit or nonprofit community or cultural organization, this also includes like universities, historical institutions, etc. These would be considered community groups. Other arts organizations, circus arts, dance groups, theater groups, etc. Galleries, so organizations who exhibit art as their main form of business. So this can be commercial galleries that sell art or just galleries that show art. And then museums, I think, are pretty self-explanatory there. And local businesses as well. So these are for-profit kind of brick and mortar organizations that serve the local population in the HRM. And this is kind of a key thing that we will go over later as well. If you're a local business or for-profit group, you can still participate in Nocturne as long as you don't charge an admission fee. That's a very important part of our values. Yeah, and that just leads into the eligibility of groups that can apply. So we have kind of 5 main eligibility categories. The first being location. Your project must take place in one of the following established areas. And this is kind of a rough outline of the locations, but generally we keep all Nocturne projects in central HRM, which includes Dartmouth. So downtown Dartmouth, downtown Halifax. We also have projects in the North End, Quinpool Road, as well as the South End. South End, so universities, Dalhousie and St. Mary's University. Nocturne values, so we already kind of went over this, but all proposed projects must be free to view or enjoy. Visitors should not be expected to spend money at the project venue. So for example, if you're a local business and you are obviously your main day-to-day operations involve selling things, you can absolutely still sell things during Nocturne, but it can't be kind of the expectation or goal. So yeah, visitors.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I want to clarify that point, Signy. So people can't like have a vendor table at Nocturne. Not something that would be allowed. So people shouldn't be expected to spend money if they're coming into your store. It's more about engaging with the art that you're hosting, or booking a table or reservation or anything like that. So we really want to emphasize that folks shouldn't have to spend money, and it should be free to experience work without any pressure to spend money in your shop.
Yes, no, that's very well said. And the primary motivation, again, should be the showcasing of local artists, rather than marketing a product or business. The project schedule, this is another important eligibility component. So all community groups and galleries must observe Nocturne schedule. So the same as every other project. Viewing will take place on October 20th. That's the Saturday, from 6 p.m. to midnight. If there are any issues that come up with this, we ask that you contact us about this. We want to make sure that everyone is able to participate, regardless of like timing constraints, but this is part of the eligibility, 6 p.m. to midnight. Staffing, volunteers, venue. So community groups and galleries are responsible for ensuring that your project has adequate staffing / volunteers to manage the project. Nocturne cannot guarantee volunteers for community groups and gallery projects. And again, having a venue secure. So if you're an organization that does not have a brick and mortar location or venue, collaborating with another organization is a great way to have a physical space. And we also do have another call called the Nocturne Waterfront Chalet call for community groups. And I have a slide to discuss that as well. So again, community groups and gallery projects are self-funded. Nocturne does not have funding for community groups and gallery projects. Some groups may choose to partner with organizations to share resources. Other organizations also apply for grant funding for some projects. Yeah, and so this is, I just want to highlight this call that we have. It's separate from our main community groups call for submissions. Last year was the first year that we did this call. It was in collaboration with Build Nova Scotia. So these huts, I'm not sure if everyone's seen these before, but they're on the waterfront in various locations, but mostly on, it's called the Foundation Wharf. So it's near, I think near the Salter lot. And they're really popular with markets, pop-up markets, stuff like that. So we were able to secure 8 of the chalets this year. And they are, yeah, they're kind of just a little space that can be used if you don't have a venue, if your venue's not in one of the designated areas. So if you're interested in applying for this, there is a call for submissions on our homepage. So if you just go to our homepage and scroll down, you'll find the Waterfront Chalet call. The application process is slightly different. So it consists of a letter of interest, basically, that you will send in, just explaining what the project looks like. Yeah, we do give priority to nonprofit organizations, including charitable organizations and groups who do not have a brick and mortar location for these. So how to apply for the main call for community groups and galleries. So if you head over to nocturnehalifax.ca, scroll down a bit on our homepage, I think it's maybe the third banner there. You can also go to blog at the top of our screen there, and that's where we have the calls as well. So you'll be brought to a Google form, which is the main way to apply for this call. The first section, actually, I didn't include that on here, but it'll just be a few questions going over the eligibility. So it will ask you to agree to like the project taking place from 6 p.m. to midnight, that you're not going to charge admission, just kind of reiterating that those are very important to your application. And then from there, this section just asks you about your organization and collaborators, etc. So all the contact details for who we're working with. So if it's a collective or a group, we just ask that one person fills this out and gives their contact information. What else do we have here? Yeah, tell us about who you are as a team or as an artist. Include bios and organization information if that's something that you have, website, social media, etc. And if you don't have a website or social media, that's okay too. And the second half of the call just has to do with the project information. So this is, yeah, kind of the meat and potatoes of the form. We just want to know what project you're proposing. So we ask for a title, we ask for a description of the project. We have for a short description that's, I think, 50 words max, and then a detailed description that's 500 words max. And those will all go on our website. So it's really important that whatever you put down in these fields will be what you want to see in print, because these will be on our website. Yeah, and if there's any changes that need to be done, feel free to contact us, but this is kind of the information that we'll be posting on the website. Accessibility. If you have a venue that has different accessibility offerings, such as accessible washrooms, if you are, let's say, hiring a sign language interpreter for a performance, or have wheelchair accessibility, these are all things that we want to know, that are great to know for the public, that we'll put on our guide and our website. Okay, Selection criteria. So after you have filled out your form, it'll go straight to us and we will just kind of screen all of the proposals and make sure that they fit with the eligibility. So applicants should be aware that participation in Nocturne is not automatic solely on the basis of meeting these general eligibility requirements. Projects must exhibit contemporary art or present a high quality original project that reflects the scale and spirit of Nocturne. Applications will be selected for their merit, presentation, and originality. It should also be a feasible project, so we want to know that you're able to execute the project. Yeah, staffing, volunteer requirements, just making sure that all of that is realistic. Health and safety needs as well. I mean, we don't often run into issues of health and safety, but we just want to make sure that whatever is being shown is safe for the public.
I just want to pipe in there too. I just want to note too, pretty much all projects will be accepted as long as they're like safe. And as long as they, you know, are within our values, like, so they're not, mean projects or like there's no, yeah, so within our values and then as well, as long as they're safe. So we're pretty easygoing in that way.
That is true, yeah. Yeah, so kind of as long as it's relating to contemporary art in some way, yeah, and that it's safe for the public and accessible for people. And I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything else here. Yeah. Some common questions that might come up. So should my organization pay artists? Nocturne encourages organizations to compensate artists whenever possible, but we also understand that funding may not be available, and that if there's an agreement between you and another artist, as long as everyone's on the same page, you know, that's fine. We just encourage whenever possible that artists be compensated. If you are not familiar with CARFAC, it is basically, well, Melanie can speak to this more, but it's kind of like basically the union for Canadian artists, or like guidelines for compensation and payment. And there are like certain fee standards for CARFAC. So we always pay at or above CARFAC fees when we pay artists for our main call. So yeah, I encourage you to visit that website if you're curious about that. What if you don't have a venue? So we understand that not all organizations have a physical space. That again is where collaboration might come in. We encourage you to, I think also attempt to, so with our venues, we typically try to get in-kind donations. So we try and get the space for free for the night. A lot of organizations are really supportive of Nocturne in that way. And if they're familiar with it, they might be willing to kind of give you the space for the night. So we encourage that. And then again, the Waterfront Chalet call is great as well if you fit into that category. We already covered this. I think, yeah, can you sell things at Nocturne? A key value is that we provide free programming, so you can't sell tickets or admission. Yeah, I mean, we have had galleries and businesses that host the project in their space, and that might sell items, but again, it cannot be the primary goal.
I guess an example of that is like the Art Gallery of Nova Scotia has their gift shop open during Nocturne, but that's different, right? Or if there's a shop that's hosting something, they might have something, but people don't need to pay or not expected to buy anything. I know just an example of something that wouldn't be allowed. That's happened in the past. Many years ago, apparently there was a restaurant that had a back courtyard, and they were hosting a project, but they wouldn't let people come in until they made a reservation or ordered a drink. So that stuff is not allowed. So in terms of what we mean when we say people feeling that they feel expected to spend money, that's something that we wouldn't approve a project that had something like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So those are kind of the common questions that we have. I think we do also have a frequent, like an FAQ section at the bottom of our call for submissions. So that's also a great place to start if you have questions. And then obviously, please feel free to reach out to Melanie or myself if you have further questions. Yeah. And now, yeah, if anyone has questions that we haven't answered, please feel free to ask us. And I think there's, oh, that's just you in the chat, Melanie. Okay.
Marian
you have a
has something?
Hi. Just a bit of background. I work for CCGH. We organize Franco Fest, so we've had projects at Nocturne quite a bit. I'm just curious about the chalet this year. Is it possible if we have an installation somewhere on the waterfront or somewhere else to also have a chalet?
Part of the reason we want to spread it out, if there is a project, we only want artists or community groups to have one project this year. You could definitely apply to have a chalet. But I don't know if it would be successful if you had another project. It's something we could discuss, but general answer is no.
Okay. What if the project is taking place like right in front on Foundation Wharf? Does that make sense to have the chalet that's like right there?
So
Or not?
last year we had a few people in the chalets that used the outdoor space like immediately surrounding their chalet. So if that's what you mean, we did have some folks doing that. So we had like there was a music group that had like their keyboard set up outside, and you know, it's kind of an indoor outdoor installation.
Okay.
So yeah, like I think in that regards there are, but if you have a larger project, like at the same time, you might be in a hut that has other projects right on either side of you, so you might not have as much space. So like, yeah, so it's something to consider, and we can talk about it as well. I know you've participated many years and have regularly done stuff on the waterfront as well. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also curious, another question, when it comes to having a project on the waterfront, are we talking directly to you when it comes to like booking in a way the spot, or are we dealing with Built Nova Scotia? How does it work this year?
So generally, that's a really good question. Organizations or nonprofits that have had we want all of the venue coordination to come through us.
Okay.
That just makes it a lot easier. As a general rule, like I know you folks have been doing a lot of stuff with us and on the waterfront, and there's a long history of that. So that's all fine and dandy. Generally, though, venues should have their venue kind of sorted, and that's why we open the huts. It's for venues that maybe are outside of the Halifax zone, like your waterfront zone, or downtown or in other parts of HRM. So yeah, if groups are looking for venues, like people should try and do them on their own, but if you don't have one, reach out to us.
So I do it through the application like we do every year, or should I also follow up with an email being like, this is where we would want to be this year? Like last year was Queen's Marquee, like
Mhm.
Just email you guys directly or?
Yeah, I would email us directly and we will be working with the Build Nova Scotia folks.
Mhm.
Just to make sure that everything is we're all on the same page. It does get a bit more confusing when you have a number of different organizations reaching out to Build Nova Scotia or Pier 21,
Mhm.
the Maritime Museum, or the library. And so we do ask that everything comes through us.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I do remember last year. Yeah, I feel like if it's on the waterfront and it's a community group, it's kind of a tricky like gray area because it's a public space and it's a space that we use a lot for other projects. So yeah, keeping us in the loop, just so there's no wires crossed, I think is probably the best advice.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, if it's like a private venue that you're renting, there's no need to really loop us in. If it's like, yeah, some other kind of venue that's not public space. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Hi. I understand this is mostly community groups, the projects. I came here to Halifax from a different background, and I have to work fairly independently as an artist, but I do collaborate with a lot of people when I, for example, make a film. I have to find people who say yes, and then they get paid minimally. But I can't really say they're a collaborative group because like because of the way you define it. And I'm kind of applying for this project independently. And I see the priority is community. I want to make community by being part of Nocturne and meeting people. So it's my desire to make community. So that's one question I have. Is it exclusively or you kind of look at prioritizing community groups?
No, that's a really great question. Thanks for asking that. We have had individual artists or collectives that have applied through the community groups session before. One of the call before. We like so you aren't excluded from participating if you're an artist. Independently or as a collective. So that's not an issue whatsoever. We have, so so that's pretty much the short answer. We do
That's
have a
good.
few every year, but we just didn't include it on that list. So sorry about that. We were like,
That's
do we
okay.
include everyone or do we kind of stick to the main categories?
No, I
Yeah,
thought
I'm
it was
trying to
majority
think-
community. I want to make community
Yeah.
through this. That's how I
Definitely.
get around, get to know people.
The other thing too, I just wanted to note about that, like we did talk about CARFAC fees. So like we are happy to have folks participate as individual and collectives, but we at the same time like acknowledge that we don't have the means, like the capacity to pay artist fees for their individual participation. So that means like if you are applying as a community group and gallery, we aren't able to provide that artist fee in the same way, whereas we do have maybe the Anchor or the Beacon or Spotlight projects where artists are being paid. So we do have that differentiation in there too, just really thinking about, we don't want community groups and galleries to be a place where unpaid artists, we are conscious of that being a loophole in a way, you know what I mean? So,
Right.
we just want to be transparent around that too. So you are able to, we don't provide funding for it but we wish we could. But you're more than welcome to.
The application has a mandatory artist fee if you want, or not if you want, in the submission. And
That's
a part of it because I thought it had to be there.
That's for the Beacon proposal. So this is a
Oh,
different call.
okay, so that's a separate submission.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a few different calls. So apologies with the confusion around that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you are curious, if you go to our website up to our project archive, there's a great resource there where you can go through different years and you can search community group or gallery and kind of see some examples. Yeah, and actually one example of artists who they were just independent artists that wanted to participate. They were a trio of artists, I believe, and this is the second year that they did this project. And they had a really great relationship with a local cafe and hosted this work there. Yeah, so that's a great example of if you're an individual artist and you are really keen on participating as a community group. Yeah. What else? Yeah, so you can feel free to look through those if you want. And otherwise, if there are no other questions,
Sorry, I have a couple questions.
yeah, of course.
Hello. So this will be hopefully our second time doing Nocturne. And I know last year, and maybe you mentioned this before, I had to jump off and get on a call real quick. But last year, there was food provided to the artists in our shop. I don't know if that a different group.
That was that was the Wayfinding Care project, I believe.
Oh, I
Melanie?
see.
Yeah. Oh, yes. So that was a specific project called the Wayfinding Care Project that was done by Wonderneath. Wonderneath Art Society. So yeah, that was a one-time project. So it was it was kind of meta because it was an art project that was part of the infrastructure of the
To
festival.
help support other artists during the festival. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was just curious whether that was happening again or not. And my next question was, and I don't remember very well the application itself, but I know, you have space to put in. So basically, I'm a shop and we're hosting an artist.
Yeah.
So I think I put in my contact information for the shop,
Yeah.
but I know the artist would probably like their contact information, like their website, if people wanted to check out their work or something like that. Is that spelled out on the application, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, like who's, I would put that, like who's putting in the application, but who's the name of the artist? And then in terms of, we get that question a lot and it can be confusing because it's a venue hosting a community group or hosting an artist sometimes. And so it's like, what is the clearest communication of what people are seeing? So I think, yeah, ensuring you have the artist name and then your shop is the venue. If that
Right,
makes-
but
But
as
in
far
terms
as
of-
like the websites and social media and things
Yeah,
like that, should I
yeah,
put
yeah.
both or?
You could definitely put both.
Okay.
I would encourage that, especially because you're not just the venue. I think in this case, like you're kind of commissioning the work almost.
I think
It's a
the
collaborative thing.
Yeah, but I think too, like the people want to see, are there, like they want to, we should be prefacing the artist, right? So I think prefacing, if there's one website to show, it would maybe be the artist's website so people can see like, oh, this is what they'll be checking out and it'll be at this business location at this address.
Yeah, that's totally fine. I definitely want to promote the artist, but like if logistically for people to find us, it's like, okay, he's going to be here,
Yeah, so there's room on this sheet where you'll be putting like the name of the venue as well as the address of the venue. So that information will still be on there. But I can't remember last year if your submission had the website to the artist, but that is definitely something that we would include as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good to have you
Awesome.
participating again this year too. Hopefully, yeah. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, does anyone have any questions about where to find the call for submissions? And because I'll just go through it really quick. It's on our homepage. There's kind of a lot going on our homepage sometimes, but if you scroll down here, we have call for community groups and galleries. And then we have the separate call for waterfront chalets. And all the info is there. And then at the bottom, there is a button that'll take you to the actual page to apply. This call is also open until August 1st, so plenty of time and time for you to get in touch with us if you have questions in the meantime.
I wanted to mention another thing. So something that is returning this year is going to be our printed guide. So we are strictly saying no changes after August 1st in terms of the submission, because the graphic designer needs to be building the document. So I know last year there was a few community groups and galleries that made a few adjustments later on. We know that there's stuff that happens, but generally we want content to be finalized, including images being sized and everything as well when the submissions are sent, and things to be as complete as possible.
Yeah, awesome. All right.
Sorry, just another question regarding the guide, because I remember a couple years ago for the guide, the submission, we did it in English, but we wanted the text in the guide to be also in French. Is that something also that, sorry, my questions are very personal. Is it also something that we should send afterwards, or you want us to do the application in both languages? It's
So
easier.
most of the information will still be on the website.
Okay.
So like it is a guide, but it is not going to be the same capacity as it was when it was with the Coast. It'll be
Okay.
smaller and have maybe title, artist, project number, accessibility information. And then people can go to the website for more information. So for instance, if and we're still not sure if we're just going to have a shorter summary, I would ensure that the shorter information, like the short description, which might make it into the guide, is something that you provide in English and French. The
Mhm.
longer description we can receive after August 1st, but you know, if we could get it for August 1st, that would be ideal.
Awesome. I'll do that. Thanks.
And we'll make sure that all of the different groups do have copies of the guide that they can have at their venues, and that can be distributed ahead of time as well. Awesome.
Okay.
Any last questions?
Well,
Okay.
our emails are on the website too. If you have any questions, there's also the info email. So yeah, if you have questions, please reach out to us. Oh, what do we have here? Oh, thank you, Melanie.
I just put
Yeah, Melanie just put our emails in the chat there. So yeah, thank you so much for joining, folks. I hope you enjoy the rest of your sunny day. And we really look forward to your submissions. So thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Mm.